Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here, and another look at another radionic instrument produced by the nefarious Caroline Connors, who's been around for like 30 years now with her very low-level junk. I knew her many years ago, actually published her educational radionic book for several years, and a beautiful hardcover edition, trying to gather radionics. She has a interesting system, but it's fraught with all sorts of problems. Interesting kind of template system, very crudely done. She would put stones, which she's still doing, and colors onto radionic machines. Of course, none of this works very well because they're not subtle energy based. Stones, anything that goes through a radionic type system has to be made more homeopathic like, meaning you have to put an energy there. Putting stones and other things, well, all this helps to a very minor degree. Caroline Connor had all sorts of problems, including the fact that she's kind of a raving, bizarre Christian who is hooked up to a lot of extraterrestrial energies, most of which are not too good. She uses a lot of crop circles and other things, and you have to be careful there. What are connected to these crop circles? She's come up with a lot of wacky ideas, and in general has been a person of very low moral reality. I broke up with her after she made sure that she cheated me. She started working with my enemies because, after all, she's a coward like most Christians. She got involved with Carl Weltz. She got involved with Stuart Whitlow, who then stole my radionic divines and made their own after I stopped working with them. Exact copies, by the way, of what I put out. Very typical of these low-level people. I'm glad she's such a great Christian. And here's a great example of garbage-made radionics. That says here, put rocks here, sending plate. Now, I made beautiful, high-quality machines that were, at that time, you got to remember, this is 25, 30 years ago, very simplistic. And they were not electric at that time, and that was part of what was being done then. A lot of people didn't have them. Of course, Ruth Drown didn't, Abrams didn't have electric units. They varied over the years. And here's a 5-dial, which again is kind of a copy of what my original 5 dials were done. And of course, they've got an on and off switch. Of course, nothing goes. There's no electricity here. You can see this is kind of a plastic, crappy box that she's put together. And then use some aluminum tape on the outside. This is an old unit I picked up off of the web, and as you can see, there's no electricity. Of course, she criticized me for not having that and said how wonderful she thought her Copen units were because they were electrical and had all these toxic circuit boards in it. But of course, you can't resell Copen units. Even back then was a problem. And of course, so if she wanted to sell her own basic units that weren't so expensive, she was forced to make them. Now, and of course, this is what came from her after she stopped working with Stuart Swerdlow from Montauk and other fames, which has some questionable connections there as well. He claims to be a healer, but seems to be hooked up with some strange type of people. So, this is what you run into in the world in general. If you think you're a local whomever is into something good, well, it's like a bad movie. Most likely they're drinking blood and doing other fun things that these kind of scumbuckets do, or going to their church and praying to their fake gods and then working for the criminals because they're gutless swine. So the whole idea is that we have your usual sending plate, and of course this is a totally wrong. Of course, this is plastic. That's an insulator. And then, of course, that's the sending plate. This is the receiving plate, which is just cheap stainless steel or aluminum. So that is, of course, and it looks like, is that covered with something? It's hard to say. We're going to take this apart and have fun with it, and for those Patreon members and all access members in the future, because it's quite involved to do all that stuff, but we'll show you the guts. But there's nothing in here about her own little goofy stuff. And, I asked her, I emailed her anonymously and said, well, how come there's no electricity that doesn't work like that? Oh, you connect to the world grid the minute you turn it on. Well, this would be a typical Caroline Connor nonsense statement. And her books are full of this. While she had a cute little template system, it was very primitive. I helped develop it for her and get her stones and colors and other things, and plastic color things, but to help the system, because that was her system. And of course, after years of testing her system, myself and others, we found no success with it whatsoever. And then, of course, this is probably about 10 years old, I'm not sure. But you can just see the idiocy about it. She, like so many, all radionic people, have absolutely no idea of the actual guts in a unit. What makes it work? What is the wiring? What do you do? And all of them have this particular problem. They have no idea, and they put together just symbolic crap. And this unit was $500 or $600. I don't know how she sells any of her stuff. I guess she's just been out there long enough, but I doubt she's doing much business. And you can put together, you can see how she's opened this box. She's got copper tape here, crappy aluminum tape. You want to avoid aluminum if you can, even though it's an easy tape to get. I mean, aluminum isn't your best metal, even though it's a conductor. You can't do much about aluminum. Most things are made out of it. It's not horrible, but she wouldn't know that. It's very poorly made. The dials are crappy with these goofy little stickers. The turning of these things, they loosen up. These are not even working right. It's just bad all the way around. You've got an ugly on and off switch here, and so forth. I mean, this looks like a junior high school project, and what's inside is even worse. So, this is very typical. You have to be careful. When you're starting to deal with spiritual and other energies, you have to be careful. You've got people who are out and out declared Satanists who are making most of your orgone out there. You've got goofballs like this. Now, their energy is in here. So you have to be very careful how much of that stays with it when you do it. So these are all the things. Here's this ridiculous sending plate. I mean, what a joke. But that's what happens when you're ignorant, cowardice people who then go with the mainstream of people. And of course, that's what she does. And of course, while she screams Jesus at the other side of her mouth, one of those many Jesus jerks who are complete cowards. But as pretty much all Christians are. So you're going to have that problem. Christianity won't be around in another 150 years, as Islam will kill every one of them because they believe in fighting for their beliefs while the Christians bend over. So this is a typical case of this kind of a person. And people should know about people like this so they stay far away from their junk. And this is what this is. Pure and simple junk. It's the lowest level crap construction I've seen in many, many years. I mean, there's some real garbage on eBay right now, these symbolic units that are cheap. But this wasn't exactly cheap. This was $500 to $600 for this. And there's just a bunch of junk inside because, of course, she thinks she knows what she's doing, and she doesn't. Very, very typical of these kind of people and what they put out. So everyone should be well aware of this kind of garbage. We will show the insides of this. Check out, of course, our links. Make sure you support IGOS so you can get to see the inner guts of things like this, etc. It's really interesting and fun to do that. And that's a real